Poddin My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Poddin My Noggin. I'm your host, CK Sims, and today we are being joined by an author, a poet, a sensitive human being. I really liked reading that, by the name of Anastasia Lindsay. Welcome to Poddin My Noggin. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
You know, I was reading through your stuff, and so I want to talk about, there's a few things that I want to talk about. You're definitely a multi-hyphenate, for sure, right?
Yeah.
You got a lot going on, and I love this. And the embracing sensitivity as a gift, that one really spoke to me
Yeah.
and kind of made me pause for a minute, because I think that I myself in my life have always thought, am I too sensitive or
Yeah.
like that sort of thing? So we're going to talk about that, but let's talk about what this surviving workplace harassment thing is all about. What did that look like for you?
It was really scary. So it kind of goes back to the sensitive thing. Things were happening and I had to look at myself and be, am I being too sensitive? Am I taking things too personal? But then if I removed that and I knew that those were just my feelings, it was still happening. Those were still very much real. And I wasn't being treated fairly. I wasn't being treated with respect. And because I was so meek and mild and quiet, I never stood up for myself, which I've learned now. But I gave them the power to do that to me because I wasn't telling them that that wasn't right. And so I was being left out of things, talked down to, and it just was a really frightening time to be able to go through that. We think those things happen in school and on the playground, but they were happening where I went to go make money. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around that there was actually workplace harassment and workplace bullying. That was a real thing.
And so and it is,
Yeah.
right? And me being vulnerable and open about my past life,
Yeah.
I've both been the recipient of harassment at the workplace, but I've also been the instigator of
Yeah.
harassment at the workplace. Because we don't think often, you form your cliques in the
Yes.
workplace, and then you're not cognizant of how those cliques come across to other people. And then there's things that you do at work that seem so innocent when you don't really think about it, but
Yeah.
giving somebody a nickname, trying to be sneaky and going around their backs so that they didn't know you all went out for lunch and stuff like that.
Yes.
But that's just mean energy. And
Right.
I remember being in a point in my life where I wasn't awake, I guess, if you will, enough to that element to know that I was doing that and how damaging that could be to another human being.
Right.
So I'm sorry that you had to do that. How did you deal with it in the end? What was the
Yeah,
final?
so first I want to say I love that you take accountability because a lot of people think that, oh, I've never been that person. Sometimes we're just not aware of it. We've all kind of been that person, whether it's intentional or not. But when it's intentional, it's very, very hurtful. And so I presented myself with a few options. I said I could stay and put up with it and maybe grow thicker skin, or I could embrace this side of fear that I'm experiencing and see what else is out there. I didn't feel like it was right for me to have to find another job, to do all of these interviews when I really liked the job that I did, but I felt like it was life's way of saying, this isn't it for you. And that's okay too. And so I said, well, maybe this just isn't it for me. Maybe this is life's way of saying there's something else out there. Please go experience that. So I started applying for all of these jobs and going for interviews. And I was like, I don't know, it still doesn't feel right. So I fought till the very end. I went to corporate HR. I filed complaints. I went into managers' offices and I used this voice that I didn't know I had. And I started sticking up for myself. And it didn't really go anywhere. And I don't say that to discourage anyone because it still felt very powerful. Like I can at the end of the day say that I fought for myself and I found a job. It's great. I've met new friends. The workplace environment is so much more beautiful. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I would have stayed there, out of fear? I was like, I could find another job and it'd be 10 times worse. But what if you find another job and it's 10 times better? And that's what I found.
Well, and that's just it, right? I think people think, well, I fought and I fought and I fought, but it didn't go anywhere, and I ended up having to leave anyway. But
Yeah,
the piece, the victory in that whole scenario is you fought,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you
I
took that
fought.
power back
Yeah.
from them. And then you took that lesson, that experience, as nasty as it may have been, and
Hmm.
you've now brought that with you through life. Just,
Absolutely.
I'm curious, how old were you when this all happened? Like recentness, like all of this sort of thing. I'm curious. You
Yeah.
don't have to answer, but it was not polite to ask someone their age.
No,
But
that's okay. See, I'm on the journey of embracing vulnerability, so I'm here to talk about the hard things, whether I'm ready or not. If it's
okay,
presented, here we go. So, actually, all of this happened within the last year and a half time frame.
very recent.
I had a similar experience about 4 years ago. So, I had a job that was the exact same, and I was like, how did I end up in this position? Not once, but two times. So, about 4 years ago, and then about a year and a half ago. And it was so crazy because I thought, oh, I thought I got over this. I thought I removed myself from a toxic position, and then I found myself in another one. But this time I used my voice. Last time I didn't. So I kind
Mhm.
of took what I learned each time, even though it was very frightening to use my voice. This is about as loud as I speak. So for me, I thought they're never going to take me serious. I'm going to go in there and they're just going to laugh and think, oh, yes, this little weak link. But it still felt really good to know that I used my voice to stand up for myself.
It's really interesting. I'm going to call this out because I think that this is for anybody who's going to watch, right? So you have a meekness in your voice and
Yeah.
speaking for yourself, but your energy is loud.
Yeah.
Does that make
Thank
sense?
you. Yeah,
Like
it does.
your appearance is strong. You're all of these things. And I wonder, and this is just me wondering too, and
Yeah.
my wondering does not give anybody the right, but I'm curious is I see you have the nice hair and the makeup and all of that sort of thing. And I wonder if it was because you didn't fit a specific mold that they thought should have been in the office or in that job.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that pisses me off so
Me
much
too.
because when one job that I've had within the last few years, well, I had one job within the last few years, I guess, but I'm not with them anymore.
Yeah.
One thing I loved about that job, there was a lot of things I did not love about that job, but one of the things I loved about that job was how they embraced diversity.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
did this on high levels. Like we're talking senior managers and directors
Wow.
with like lip piercings and tattoos and
Yes.
half shaved heads and there was a manager who was transgender and I'm like I'm originally from Newfoundland, right? So which is a very small province in Canada.
Yeah.
But when I moved and came to Montreal, and went to the office, I was like looking around and I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I love it. So, yeah. So, people out there, you need to not be focused on how somebody looks,
Hmm.
dresses, or whatnot. You need to look at their performance,
Absolutely.
what they bring to the table. And
Yes.
it speaks volumes. So, you did this and you moved out of that toxic environment, and now you're in a healthy environment where you're thriving.
Yeah, so it's really amazing because the gifts that I have were seen as weaknesses at my last job. So
Mhm.
I wasn't necessarily the boss over people, but I was like the level in between, like the
Yep.
middleman. And so I would go out on the shop floor, and before I spoke any business, I asked my people, how are you doing today? How was your weekend? is anything going on? I approach them with a lot of respect and empathy, and just they're a human before a worker, right? And that's how I approach them. And upper management didn't like that. They didn't like that I was close with people, that I spoke kindly to people. Like, that bothered them more than anything. And they didn't
So
like
it's
how
a toxic
yeah,
environment, period, then.
yes. So period. They didn't like how I spoke to them. And so that really bothered me too. And they didn't like that. So now I get to use my kindness as a gift. Everyone that I meet, I treat with respect, regardless if you're the vice president or if you're the person that's coming and taking my trash away from my desk, you know? And so I love that part about me, is that I can just see people as people and approach
And
people as people.
now in this new role, this is what's being appreciated about
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
it. It is how it is. The person, the leader at that old job needs to do some internal work.
Hmm.
But also, it really does boil down to one person's vision of another, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, I love this kindness talk because this is how I live life.
Yeah.
In my life, not always. I talked to you before about, and I've said it on the podcast before, like when in my 20s, I just wasn't a nice person. But I
Yeah,
wasn't a nice person because I was just not well on the inside,
absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So now when I think about, like, when I'm doing anything, whether I use this almost the same statement, I will treat you the exact same way, whether you are the CEO or the person cleaning the floors.
Yeah.
And the reason I feel that way is because there's one thing that makes them exactly the same. Do you know what that is?
Did I say it already? They're human?
There you go. They are human, right? And
Yeah.
that's the piece. Like, I'm I don't really care if you have 5 degrees and a PhD, like,
Right.
or you're someone who's working to put bread and food on your family's table.
Right.
You're a human being first before you are anything else.
Ah,
And you
yes.
all need, if everybody led through kindness,
Hmm.
what kind of world would we live in?
I know.
It
It
would
just,
be
oh, it like, it's almost like mind-boggling to even think of. You know, like, what if every person I encountered approached me with kindness? Even if I was different than them, even if I was less outgoing than them, like, they still treated me the same. Because if that's how I want to be treated, then I need to do the same in return. So yes, I encounter people that are different than me. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is very loud. I'm not very loud. And it can be overwhelming. But you know, you're going to encounter those different people everywhere you go. How can we at
and what
least be kind?
and that's the piece too, is that you're going to encounter all of these people. It doesn't mean that you have to include all of these people in your life or as a
Yeah.
part of your circle, but how you interact with them
Yeah.
by being kind is fine. I meet people all the time as well that's totally different than I am,
Yeah.
right? I meet assholes. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
them walking around the
There
world.
is.
Uh, I meet people who are just on the neutral, and I meet people who are closer to, say, where I'm at when it comes to kindness.
Yeah.
Everyone gets the same kindness, the same. If I notice something about them I really like, or I think that needs to be called out, I make a point of calling it out and saying, I really love how you just handled this situation, or I really love how you comprise that note or that
Yeah.
presentation. Like, it takes nothing. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the world, because it seems to maybe us that we are really kind. Well, I'm really kind now because I had to do a lot of healing.
Yeah.
And once I healed and learned to actually love myself and be kind to myself,
Hmm.
then being kind to everyone else just came second nature.
Yeah. Like breathing. You just
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
right. And so I look back to 20-year Curtis in his 20s, that's me in my 20s, and I'm like, I
Cringe.
cringe because I'm like, oh God. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I would never do some of those things. This is great. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Life in Stitches by CK Sims. Available for purchase in paperback and ebook on all major platforms. Partner today with CK Sims and Poddin My Noggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody, to Poddin My Noggin. We are here talking to Anastasia Lindsay today. Before the break, we have been covering some of her experiences with workplace harassment, and we've been talking about being kind, which is one of my favorite topics ever. But you're not here just to talk about harassment. You're here to talk about Ocean. Tell us about Ocean.
Yes, so I wrote a poetry book called Ocean, and it's all things human emotion. So I talk about it all, everything from not loving yourself to past pain and trauma, heartbreak, and happiness, love, the in-between periods where you're in the healing journey, where you're kind of not quite recovered from everything that happened to you, but you feel like you're going forward. So I talk about it all. One of the things I love doing is embracing human emotions. I'm an emotional human being, whether it's very, very sad and sensitive and crying, or I can be like really, really happy and peaceful and lovey, and I just want to hug people. So I talk about it all in my book. It's a poetry book, over 200 poems within Ocean.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you have one particular poem that you like the most?
I get asked that a lot and I don't, but there are favorites. I do have favorites. I have to say yes.
Is there one that you have close to yourself right now?
I have my book with me actually. So yeah.
Show us the cover.
The cover, yeah. It's very calming and peaceful because some of the topics that I do talk about in my book, they can be overwhelming. So as people read my book and they close the cover, they have a place of calm to return to. So there is my book. It's very iridescent blue with some little pink.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a little hard to see through the video, but I can see it.
Yes.
Would you be so kind as to read us one of your favorites?
Absolutely. Okay, so here is one of my favorites that I wrote, and I love taking places of my imagination and just creating a poem from it. So this is what I did. I hear that if a writer falls in love with you, that you can never die. And this I believe to be true, because I have fallen in love with you. And the scribbled letters and words on my paper are filled with nothing but you. Even strangers in different countries will read my story and be in absolute awe. Years may pass and days swift by. Pages might turn yellow and the corners tarnished. But in between those many lines, your name will live on. A tale for the generations to come. A love story that has lasted over many lifetimes. My love for you is storybook worthy, and you deserve to live on forever in my mind and the millions of readers worldwide. The end.
Wow. Oh, wow. So you had me hooked right from the beginning.
Thank
So
you.
like I think if it's still in my brain, I heard that once a writer falls in love, you will live on forever.
Yes, you can never die. So I put you will live forever at the bottom, but that second line is you can never die.
You can never die.
Yeah.
How true is that?
You just live on even after me and my fiance are long gone. My books might be floating around the world somewhere and they're still going to read that poem that I wrote about my fiance. Like he's just going to live on. Like
That's really lovely.
Thank
And
you.
is there, do you title your poems?
My poems are not titled because I want it to be conversation opportunities for people. Like, read this poem, like, what would you title it? And what would you title it? And when I asked that question before, everyone had different titles. And I thought that was so interesting, all of the titles that people came up for the same poem that they wrote, that they read together.
That is brilliant. Really.
Thank
No,
you.
honestly, like that is like next level brilliant because what a great way to get people talking about your work.
Yeah.
What would I call your poem?
Yeah. Gets you thinking.
A writer's eternally written
Oh, I love that.
or a writer's stone
A writer's stone. That's beautiful. I really like that one. A writer's
carved
stone.
stone.
Yeah, so it's just fun to come up with different titles for a poem.
Absolutely brilliant. I give hats off for
Thank
that.
you.
What a way to, and I can see you in like speaking arrangements, like
Yeah.
reading your work and then posing that question.
Yes, I do.
Right?
I actually have virtual book clubs, and that's one of the questions I give people. What would you title this poem? And just to just hear all of the things. And some of them I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful. I would have never thought of that. It's just fun. It's a fun, and it gets people talking, like you said.
They who wrote the poem,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so I think by doing that, you're just giving the poem so much even more life,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
and I love
That
it.
somebody could make it their own in a sense that this poem is by Anastasia Lindsay. However, I have titled it this.
Yeah,
And that's because this is how it has spoken.
me. Yes.
Isn't that poetry and what it's all about? The feelings and the emotions that it elicit.
Yeah.
And so you wrote this book and released it in 2022, but you said you got it on Barnes and Noble shelves in 2024.
Yes, this year. So all of 2023, there was like 5 locations that I was emailing and visiting. I would pop up in the store and ask to speak to the manager. Oh, we're not doing anything right now, or I never got emails back, and I never took that as a no. Unless I hear the word no, N-O, I keep trying. And I finally got back, or someone got back to me this year, and I had a 1-day consignment. If I sold enough books, they would put my books on the shelf. And so I sold more books than I needed to, and I got to be on the shelves. And then another location emailed me back. So just don't give up. If you have dreams or something that you really, really want, or there's a big goal, just keep trying. Because sometimes it's just a timing thing. You know,
That
last
is
year was not my year to do it, but this year was.
That's very inspiring, to be
Thank
honest with
you.
you. And I love the persistence. And that is what it takes. It takes going after what you want and
Yes.
being persistent and resilient
hmm
and handling rejection well,
You have
right?
to, yeah, you really do. You have to go through those into those situations knowing that you could be told no or not right now. Just go in knowing that so that way you don't get hurt by that answer. And then you just keep trying.
Absolutely. And I think it's also about like just the no's are a part of the yeses,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's a package deal. So to get a
Absolutely.
yes, you must get no's, I think, in a lot of different dream building scenarios.
Yeah.
People rarely will wake up and be like, I'm going to be a successful author today. Walk out the door and get an immediate yes from some big book publishing company or whatever, right? They're
Yeah.
part of that package. And I think every no gives you a thicker skin
hmm
or it gives you more fuel to get that yes.
Yes.
And like, I don't think there's maybe some of those Nepo babies in the world, maybe didn't have to deal with no's,
Right.
but most people who have made a name for themselves or success in their own terms.
Yeah.
Now, I always say it this way now because what is even success, right? Success for
Right.
you may look very different than
Totally
success
different.
to me.
Yeah.
So, have received no's and rejection along the way. And
Yeah.
it's whether or not we just put our head in the sand and deal with it and not do anything about it, or we just keep going. And
Right.
it's interesting because like I'm in the same boat right now. I started this podcast at the beginning of the year after going through some, like I was packaged up from my job, and it really caused me to think, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
And so like I kind of switched gears. I write. I released a book this year. I'm working on my second one right now. It's not poetry, it's
Congratulations.
fiction. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have been someone riddled with anxiety my whole life.
Me too.
And doing this and putting myself on the internet, if you had told me 5 years ago I would be doing this, I would have laughed in your face. Like
Same.
it just,
Literally
yeah.
same.
So, and now I'm like, you're my 35th episode this year, right? So it's, my goals is first, I think it was 5 episodes in, and I asked the universe, I said, like, I just need guests. I need people to talk to.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I have too many guests. I'm like, I don't know what to do with them all. And so, like, I'm going to do the same thing right now. I need sponsors.
Yeah.
So,
Hey.
putting that out there, if you like what I'm doing and you want to sponsor a little show, come talk to me.
There you
right?
go. Yes. You
Right?
have to ask for what you want sometimes.
Absolutely. And so, for everybody listening today, you can pick up Ocean on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes. And you can follow Anastasia on Anna Marie Poetry. So that's ANAMARIE Poetry. I will link it in the description on Instagram. And then on TikTok, it's Anastasia Lindsay Poetry.
Correct.
On TikTok, which I'll also link. But then you have a website that's quite lovely.
Thank you.
Which is Summer Solace. I'll always want to say solstice when I read it. SummerSolaceHealing.com.
Yes.
And I will link that as well. You can go over there and you can check out some of the other stuff that you're up to. And so, you've got a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this picture.
Oh, thank you.
I love the picture of you in the Barnes & Noble store.
Thank you.
With the book on the shelves. Like, I
Yeah.
love that so much for you. It
Thank
literally
you.
brings me so much joy. And I love that it was such a dream and persistent thing for you that you just went after it.
I just did it. Yeah, it's like almost like, did I do that? Sometimes you have to look back at the pictures and like, no, I did that. Like, what?
You did do that. So I would recommend buying Ocean, number one. What would you want the listeners today, out of all the things that you've done within the last few years, getting your book out, getting it in Barnes & Noble, writing such beautiful poetry?
Thank you.
What would you want the people that listen to this show to know most about you and to know most about life?
Life, I would say to just go with the flow. And I know it sounds like a cliche saying, but really there is a flow to life. Whenever you feel like you're torn between two things, but there is a gravitational pull and you know it. Sometimes we're just afraid to admit it. Just follow that. Follow the leads. Follow your heart. Go close to the people that feel like home, because that's how you're going to have your dreams come true. There's people out there that want to support you, that do love you. And there's people out there that you haven't met yet that are going to support you and love you. So follow those leads, follow those pulls. And you are not unlovable, even if other people tell you that you are. There's people out there that will love you exactly as you are. Even if you're shy, meek, and mild like me, there's people out there that love you. And about me, I'm a peacemaker. So even if I stop being an author or I don't do my holistic healing things anymore, I will always bring peace to people. So I want to be remembered for peace, most importantly.
I love this.
Thank you.
And kindness.
And kindness. Yes.
Yeah,
Spread kindness. Right? Yes.
Oh, wow. This has been an incredible 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Are. Keep doing you.
Thank you.
And spreading that light. We need a lot of that in today's age.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, check out summersolacehealing.com. Pick up Ocean. Send her. I assumed your gender. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Um,
You
is
you were
that
correct.
correct?
Yes, you were correct.
Okay, perfect. I know I have it here, but I wasn't sure.
No, thank you
So
for checking.
so yeah, send her your reach out on social media and send her your, if you find a poem that you
Yes,
really love
please
and
do.
there's no name, send her your name for that poem because that
Yes, I
could be
love it. I love
yeah.
when people reach out to me, so I try to respond to messages when I can. It might be a few days, but I don't ignore people. So please reach out. I love it. I love connecting.
I wish you immeasurable success
Thank
in
you.
on your terms.
Thank you. I
That's
appreciate
that's
it.
what I want for you. Thank you
And me
so
too.
much for coming here today. Thank you. Um, I will keep an eye out on things that you're doing.
Yay.
And for everybody at home, as I try to always say at the end of every session, go out there and live your wildest dreams.
Yes, please do.
See you next
Do
time.
it to yourself.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.